Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Diamond. I'm the founder over at PushSend. This is a webinar for successful email campaign tips for your events. I appreciate everybody coming down and taking the time to see this. Let me kind of kick off my screen here. Share. Tell me we can all see. And I will go into the slideshow. Okay, cool. So everybody, so again, we're talking about email marketing for events and why do we want email marketing for events? So email marketing is still the highest converting marketing effort or tool, I should say, around. There's about 75% of event creators pick email marketing as their tool of choice, if you will, which is the most effective strategies for them, with 45% of ticket sales for events coming from emails, which is a pretty obviously impressive number there. Event related emails generally see about a 28% open rate, which again is certainly on the high side there. And really important stat, which email campaigns are about 40 times more effective than Facebook and Twitter combined in helping businesses acquire new event attendees. So again, email marketing is the tool of choice still to this date, even though way more buzzwords around social and that whole area. It's the staple, if you will, of marketing. Email campaigns can be used to generate interest long before your event happens, giving you the ability to set up a sequence of emails to encourage potential or existing attendees or past attendees to buy tickets to attend your event, whether it be live or virtual, free or paid. And really a key factor of email marketing is that email marketing is easy to measure, right? As opposed to a lot of other marketing related efforts. You have your open rates, your clicks, you have very measurable data or analytics, I should say, for email marketing. Okay, so branding your emails. So in a sea of emails, how does your email stand out and best represent your brand? Everybody spends so much time these days on, of course, content, which is, of course, as equally key and important on how buttons look and where the button should be and all of these things. But what people don't realize is that their brand, which they've spent a lot of time on their website and other related material, matters much in an email. When you open an email and there's that sea of emails, you're looking for something that feels professional, that in your gut tells you that this is something you want to look at, that you immediately recognize as well, right? So here are two examples. Zoom does a really great job all the way through website, all the way down to email to be very recognizable. Their brand is very in your face, very consistent. Imagery is consistent. Messages are consistent. Colors, branding, consistent. I also chose one called Known Alive, which is more of a smaller end company, if you will, but really relevant because you'll see everything here is about booking cooking classes, and everything down to the imagery is very on brand for them. Colors, everything. It's very, very consistent. So these things matter when it comes to email. Effective subject lines. To me, this is probably one of the most important pieces of the puzzle when it comes to email marketing. So not many people will open your emails or even read the body. Most people really just read the subject lines, right? So when they're scrolling through, it's really about subject name, subject line, and the preview text. There's just a sea of emails, right? It's almost like the headline. Everyone's kind of in the headline universe today, where they're just kind of reading that side of it to see if they're even interested to open the body, right? So, subject line golden rules. Ideal subject line should be no longer than 60 characters, 6 or 8 words is kind of ideal. Playing to people's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. So it's really about like getting to the point, getting people to want to respond, to act, to be very clear and specific, and kind of, again, getting to them to feel like I need to be opening this email. Adding emojis is a huge thing today, right? And you'll see there's some examples below, but, very eye-catching, kind of can say a lot of words, or say a lot of things without a lot of words, if you will. Telling subscribers what to expect in the email content, right? Grab the attention without being over the top, and embody your brand's personality. So there's some examples that I put here below that really kind of, I think, talk clearly to some really effective and good related subject lines. So H&M, you have 2 gift boxes, obviously automatically from an eye-catching perspective. I know that this is about holiday or some kind of, gift or something like that, $50 off in-store event, right? Mudville, which is a restaurant, you got a football plus pizza equals fun Sunday fun day. Really great, really to the point. Click it or miss it. Under $25 sale is ending. By invitation only. There's all these examples of really great subject lines that talk specifically to and clearly to how to utilize the 6 or 8 words or less, using some emojis and getting specific to the point and being relevant. Email content. So obviously the big hitter here. So I put this stat on top. 91% of US adults like to receive promotional emails from companies they do business with already. So there's a reason why I put that on top, because number 1 in my list of to-dos for email content is to know your audience, right? So it's not just about, which a lot of people do, focusing on content to attract new attendees, but it's as much about nurturing previous attendees to your event, which is really your pot of gold, right? If there's that many people that continue to want to receive these type of emails, that have done business with you or gone to an event with you, then it's as much focusing on that segment, if you will, of your list. Writing clear value propositions for each user type and each email type. So that means, again, really understanding your audience, who are the users you're going after, and then what are the email types that you need to be sending out. So if I have an event that's, 6 months out and I'm starting to do some marketing now, what along that path are the emails that you need to be putting together? There's a first promotional email, there's follow-ups, there's save the date, there's thank yous, there's, buy now. There's all of these different email types that you essentially want to put together, that you should have very clear value propositions in each one of those. Promo emails, so focus messages on what subscribers will gain from attending your event. So everyone, again, goes back to audience. Who's the audience? Who are these people? What are they? What would they gain out of coming to your actual event? Is it a learning experience? Is it a networking thing? Is it, whatever it might be? There should be some very clear focused messaging around that. Don't use spam trigger words. And I have a list of just some, there's lots of them, and there's lots of different sites that list these, but I'll show you in the next slide what that looks like in regards to some of the spam trigger words. Those are super important to avoid, just because people like Google and other folks in the email world, Gmail and so on, Yahoo, they really have gotten fairly sophisticated about looking for these and connecting them to specific types of emails and connecting that to your subject lines and all that stuff. And that will kind of very much trigger you to hit that spam box. Use effective calls to action. Obviously, coming up with priority list of what you want your subscribers to do. You want them to purchase tickets, you want them to hit a landing page and learn more, get to know about speakers, whatever that might be. There should be you put a list together of effective, priorities, and what you want those call to actions to be, and then prioritize them, because you can't have priority number 1 for every single thing you want them to do. Sure, you want them to generally learn about an event. You also want them to buy tickets. You may want them to know about the overall company or future events, or maybe in a webinar you're doing yourself, whatever it might be. Come up with that list of actual priorities. Using images that relate to the event, that are on brand and don't detract from your messages, especially on mobile. A lot of times Mobile is kind of a second thought when it should be a first thought, right? And so images clearly, as I'm sure all of you have seen, get in the way on mobile a lot of times. It could be blocking content, it could be pushing content out of the way, and disrupts the entire flow and even the brand, right? So be careful about that on the mobile side, but also pick images that relate to your brand. Like, what are you like on the food service I was showing you before? They have a very specific brand, and their imagery really captures, showing that cooking class or whatever it might be, and relates directly back to that. Choosing just generic kind of templated, if you will, images doesn't really serve well to your emails. Choose content elements that work. So literally that could mean, when we say content elements, it could be a countdown clock, it could be testimonials, things along those lines. You really should test the waters on some of those areas that work. Obviously, again, countdown clocks work really, really well, especially obviously in the realm of getting close to an event, to give that, feeling of, I need to act on this now, as well as testimonials. Just validate, could be some impressive speakers from the past or people who've attended, just to show what an amazing time they've had or what they've gained from it is key. And then in the footer is, some obvious and, maybe not so obvious stuff. It builds back to your trust, to the trust of your brand, to have your address, your phone number, your website, your hours of operation, some of the social channels they can hit, and of course, unsubscribe links that should be there. So we talk about the spam words that we were talking before. That is, here's kind of like a laundry or dump of a list, if you will, to show you just some of the types of words that should be avoided, because you'll definitely at some point, along with other factors, of course, but these kind of words are really negative words not to be used, and will be kind of flagged as spam. So everything 100% free, big bucks, earn extra cash, earn extra anything, right? Free gifts, free this, free that, pure profit, money back, all of these types of things. Free trial even is one that actually is yielded. And you'll see at the bottom, there's a URL, which I thought it's a Business News Daily. They actually have a really good list. There's about 200 names of words to avoid, I should say, in emails. And yeah, but there's a bunch. You could do a Google search, and there's a bunch of different related sites that will tell you all about these, or have lists, if you will, of words to avoid. Using A/B testing. So this, we start to get a little more advanced in email marketing, right? And this is also a key factor here, because A/B testing enables you to make decisions about your emails based on actionable data, not just guessing, right? So you have this great idea, or you have this great messaging, but there's a lot of pieces involved, right? There's subject line, there's your content, there's images, there's actionable buttons, there's things you want people to look at or do, and you don't know what's going to work, right? And again, it shouldn't be a guessing game, and why A/B testing exists in a lot of the email platforms today. You should ultimately be using those so that you can effectively run tests against, whether it be your subject lines, content, actionable, items within the actual email itself, and be able to see whether or not something is converting as well as you thought it would be against something similar, if you will, right? So start an A/B test with an idea, what you want to improve or learn. Do you want to improve on open rates, click rates, subscriptions, etc.? Do you know if emojis in a subject line work well? Have you ever tried them before? Well, maybe this is a time, and utilizing A/B testing is a good way to test that, right? So a lot of, and I'll say, like for push send, for example, A/B testing works in a way where, you can set up a test. You could set up it as a subject line test, and you can say, I have 1,000 people in my list only send the test to 500 people. And I'm going to do it with emojis and without emojis. And the winner, meaning who has essentially opened and or clicked on that email more, the winner of that, automatically the additional 500 will get sent the winner, if you will. So there's a lot of interesting, cool tools out there to use for A/B testing and reasons why. You can, select the sample size, the test length, excuse me, setting test variables, and then, keep testing. That is the key factor here, right? Data should drive, because again, one thing about email marketing is it's easy to get data and analytics to help drive your decisions. Keep testing. The more you test, the more you'll improve your email campaigns, the more you'll convert, the more you'll be able to send the right message to the right people at the right time. So using automations, email automation is a series of personalized emails sent out, right? So to be triggered by actions by your contacts, or had they've met certain conditions, if you will, right? So it allows you to segment both subscribed customers into different groups to ensure that they've received the right message pre and post event, for example. So automated emails have about 70% higher open rate, right? And 152%, it's possible to be above 100%, I guess, and 152% higher click rate than general email newsletters, for example. So really what that means is it allows for you to set up these automation emails that will go out that are very personalized along a person's journey, whether it be for buying a product, whether it be for your event, whether it be you want them to learn more about something at a certain time that they've taken a certain action, or they've been put on a certain list or tagged a certain way, then you can have the automation send them a specific message. And that is key to a lot of email marketing, right? So defining your automation workflow, right? So know your audience. The key is to make sure you're creating automations with targeted audience in mind. You should set up automation workflows for every stage of the customer journey, which we just talked about. Again, if you have a starting point and you know when your event is going to go live, along that path, you can set up, somebody has just registered, wait X amount of days and send them this very specific email, which is a highlight of the speakers or whatever it might be. There is some clear actions that the automation can take and be very focused and very personalized for each individual. It's enough to email your leads and existing customers just one time. You need to keep following up with them, right? It's not enough, excuse me. Again, we go back to that. Like, repetitive nature is key when it comes to, setting up these automations and just email marketing in general. It's about hitting people at the right time, at the right place, and not choking them with emails, of course, right? People, that's a whole different subject matter, but there are a lot of people in a lot of companies that over communicate and over send emails for sure. And people just drown in it. You have to be very specific and very clear in your approach. And I would say that you can get some really nice high conversions if you follow a method along the path of setting up proper automations, figuring it out, sitting down and working through when at a certain point in time, certain emails should be addressed or sent to a particular person. So analytics. So to go through some key analytics that email marketing provides for you, first of all, I'll say open rates is completely overrated. I say that it's like the top level analytics there is, of course. How many opens did you get? That's kind of a key metric that I always hear people talk about. But in today's world, it's not a very accurate depiction of what's going on, because people like Gmail, for example, on the Google side, they have technology that pre-opens your emails before you even look at it for certain reasons. And because of the way that metrics are measured, in some cases, certain platforms will look at that as an open, and technically no one has actually even looked at it yet, right? So you may get inflated numbers there. It's what we have, it's what's used today, but it's not the best method for really analyzing your emails. Click-through rates, right? So total click-throughs or unique clicks divided by the number of delivered emails, right? And for me, like, again, total clicks is a great number, but more on the unique side. And we say unique, that means that each individual person who clicked, and we record that, right? I think that is a really key metric. Opens is great, but what is your conversion, right? What is your click-through rate for that unique click, if you will? And that's a key metric there. Conversion rate, percentage of email recipients who clicked on a link, right, within an email and completed desired actions such as registering for your event. So that's the conversion rate, which is super, super important. There's list growth rate, right? So month over month, or even event over event, or event to event, I should say, comparison, which is important. People don't, I think, really look at that enough. And I think they should care about consistently trying to have a certain level of list growth, right? There's unsubscribe rates, right, which ultimately talks to, and it's a number that you should keep an eye on, because it really, it talks to the strategy, and it talks to the level of content in a lot of ways that people are receiving. And it also talks to the level of your list, or the quality of your list, if you will. You may have lists that are fairly old. You haven't shaken it out, so to speak, in quite some time. And you are just sending out, you're using it anyway. Well, unsubscribes, not only is it just a number for you, but it also relates back to, over time, these other, services, the Google, the Gmails, the Yahoos, utilize those numbers. They use those numbers to determine whether or not an email, going back to the domain, is in fact spam or not. So over time, if you have enough of those, you will in fact get thrown into spam. And again, that talks about mark the spam rates, right? So mark the spam rates really, again, is a key metric. Talks to the list health, can hurt your brand, as I just mentioned as well. That is a huge factor in you over time consistently getting into the spam folder or junk mail, if you're not careful about how you're treating your list, I should say. Bounce rates, again, goes back to your list health, right? Are you shaking that list out? Meaning, are you constantly vetting that list to make sure it's up to date, that have good emails? There are services, again, like PushSend, who have services, what they call their email validation service, that will check that for you in the background and see how valid names in your lists are, which is a great thing to have. Unengaged subscribers. This is one that you really don't hear a lot of, which is a really core, I think, piece of what's going on. It's easy to get the metrics on engaged, right? It's easy to get the clicks, right? Because it's data in front of you. What's not so easy is for you to basically analyze and see, well, okay, we have X number of subscribers. We sent all these emails. Who hasn't been engaged, right? Why? Start to analyze the why, right? Why aren't they engaged? Segment those lists. Look at them. Look at the type of people in your lists, if you can, and determine, is the content just not relevant for them? Is it, subject matter, topic, whatever it might be? You're not obviously effectively utilizing your list if those numbers continue to grow up and up, or at a certain level, if you will, the unengaged. Email forwarding rate is another obviously big one. So there are services, again, like PushSend, that have a function called email forwarding, and that email forwarding rate allows for you to see, or it's, if someone's sharing content, forwarding it to other folks, what is that content? Why are they sharing that? Like, it gives you a lot of data, right? It's very telling as to what's working and what's not. Maybe it's along the path, it's a very specific email about, the speakers, and there's just some speakers in there that are just amazing, and or it's a giveaway or whatever it might be, and everyone's sharing it. Well, that's obviously something you should pay a lot of attention to. And then the overall ROI. And the ROI obviously being your return on investment from your email campaigns, the total revenue divided by the spend that you're spending on email marketing in general. And that's obviously a very real number that you should be looking at. And again, something that you can very much determine and see. If it's product based and you're selling product, then it's fairly straightforward. And also on the event side, if you have paid events, it's fairly straightforward. It's, I have X number of ticket sales versus what it costs me to do this level of marketing. And that will obviously guide you in the right direction. And hopefully that's on the plus side. So I am now going to ask folks, to ask whatever questions they may have.
We got a couple of great questions come in, Eric. One of them being, do videos and photos impact email delivery?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do videos and photos impact email delivery?
Yes. So that's a great question. So there are those that want to actually embed and use video directly in email. Now, it is possible in a lot of ways, but a better approach, let's just talk about video at first, but a better approach to that is in a lot of ways, just for the purpose of compliance, having a screenshot video with like a little play sign in there embedded, looks like the video, they click it, it actually brings them out to a landing page where the video can actually play wherever that might be. It's a much better approach, much more compliant with all the different email browsers and platforms that are out there. Obviously, especially on the web browser side, but if in fact you're determined to embed video in there, it has to be fairly lightweight. But I will tell you that a lot of, especially on the B2B side, if you try to do that, most corporations will block those. And then on the image side of the universe, it really comes down to, again, plain text versions of emails are a necessity in this universe, as an addition to, of course, having the images in there in line. Images can often be blocked by corporations if you're not careful about how they're put into your page. But as important is, like, for example, Outlook 365 is a lot of what's used today. In your browser, in your Outlook app, it'll ask you on top that you need to basically approve showing external images. And so there is deliverable issues when it comes to related issues. They should be obviously as small in nature as possible, and used very carefully and not just sporadically and all over the place, because your email can be a mess if a corporation blocks it, and then you just have all these big gaps in your email, right?
Perfect. And I think we have time for just one more question here. As a new business owner, how would you recommend building out your email list? Interesting question.
So I'm gonna actually pull this up, as you can see here. So I'm gonna answer that like on a very high level, but just as a kind of segue in, which is kind of interesting. So the next webinar that we're going to do is going to be actually talking specifically about that subject matter, which is growing your list with affordable lead generation, right? So all of these tools are amazing, right? But like, if you don't have a list or you don't know how to grow a list, then it really is just tools that you'd love to use, but you just don't have a list. And so there's a lot of really great services out there that will help you capture leads. First and foremost is you have your website, you have landing pages, you have other digital properties and things that you do. You should absolutely, and I absolutely encourage this, to be having newsletter signups. Start a newsletter if you don't have one, and whether it be once a month, once a quarter, whatever, get a newsletter little sign up on there. Services like PushSend have the ability to create forms that you can just embed on your site, and it gets, when somebody submits, it goes right to an actual list, or you can tag those users and use a tag-based system if you want. But there's that form, and making sure there is services I'll mention one which are partners of ours, like Ad Critter, that are focused around small business, that are what we call the front of the funnel, which allow for you to go in and do some advertising on websites, on television, and other things for very affordable prices, and generate leads. And then you can tie that back into your lists. And I think, again, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in that area for small businesses to really capture people. If you have a good product, or you have a great event that you're putting on, or whatever it may be, people these days, they're thirsty, right? They want to attend, they want that product, they want to be able to kind of learn more or whatever. So it's just a function of putting stuff out there and getting folks to know about it and signing up, and getting that quality lead, if you will, right? So again, I'll leave it at that. Again, we're going to talk more about that in the next webinar, and we will give you much more detail about that.
Thank you for that. We can't wait for that next webinar.
Cool.